Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to today's video. I'm your host Phil, and today's video, I got the Kemper Profiler over here, and I want to shoot it out against some of the other guitar rig capture technologies out there. Let's roll the intro clip, get into a little bit of talking, and then check out some tones. Thank you so much everybody for tuning in. I highly appreciate it. Yeah, as I said before, in the intro segment, we have the Kemper Profiler Power Amp over here today, or the Power Amp Head over here today, borrowed by a good friend of mine. Thank you so much. You know who you are. And I just want to put it to the test against the other guitar rig capturing technology there is out there, because there was so much movement on this sector during the last, I would say, 2.5 years, especially with the launch of ToneX. You know, that was like a big push in the market, and then shortly after I discovered NAM, Neural Amp Modeler, and a lot of other people as well. That then became kind of the staple when it comes to nerdy, geeky, chasing the best possible sound which you can get. And yeah, alongside the ways, also STL Tones came with their tracer technology. So this is going to be a very interesting comparison, I hope so. However, let me first talk a little bit about the Kemper itself, because this is a pure trip to nostalgia. Back in 2011, 2012, when this thing was first released, I was super stoked to get my hands on one and actually buy one, because having all of the amplifiers in the world in one, you know, nice package was like a dream come true for me. And I thought to myself, wow, this would be super amazing if I could capture my own amplifiers, use other people's amplifiers, and that for the fraction of the cost of these amplifiers actually costing. However, back then I did not have the funds to buy this over here, and life carried on, and I just used what I had, like my Bugera 6262, my boost over there, and then I kind of went more into the analog realm. I enjoyed that more, did not really think about the Kemper until I kind of you know, played a little bit around with preamp pedals on pedal boards, you know. So I just want to kind of build a fly rig because it was way more in handy. And you know, then came ToneX. Now ToneX totally blew everything away when it comes to capturing. I think this was like 1.5 years ago, and this year Dimehead has released the first NAM capable hardware unit, the Dimehead NAM player. So we now have hardware derivatives for all of these different technologies. However, in today's video, we're not going to check out the actual pedals and the actual hardware. I'm going to do captures of all of these different technologies from the same rig, and we're going to compare them kind of in the box against the Kemper itself. For that, we don't have any native firmware or software here in the box, so we have to use the unit for that. I just want to find out, does the Kemper kind of live up to the legacy that it has paved, or does it kind of fall short behind? So hope you're in for the journey, and let's hop into the next segment of the video, shall we? Alright, I got all of the captures now made for all of the technologies which I have available, and I prepared everything in Reaper so that we can do some quick A/B comparisons while playing. This is going to be kind of a freestyle segment where I'm just playing a little bit, explaining what I feel, what I hear, and hopefully you are going to also be able to hear what I'm actually hearing, and that's going to translate well to you as a listener. How does this work? So we got the different tracks over here. I colored them differently. The first one being the actual real amp track, then comes the Kemper, then comes the NAM, then comes ToneX, and then Tracer from STL Tones. Now, whenever I click on one of those respective tracks, it will automatically arm that record and will allow me to play through that respective technology. For example, when I'm clicking on this over here, you can see that this is armed, so that means you're going to hear the Kemper. When I click on the reamp in track, you're going to hear the real amp, the reamping thing. And when I click over here, you're going to hear Neural Amp Modeler, and so on and so forth. So let's first explore what the real amplifier sounds like so that we have a reference tone going on. So I'm going to click on that one and just going to thrash a little bit. So that's a very tight, very chuggy thrash metal tone. I really love it. I think the Lichtlam Audio King in Yellow is such an amazing boost for this particular channel on the EVH 5150. Without that particular boost, it does not get into that really, you know, stomach punching territory. Really like that growl, which we get over there. Gonna play again through the real amp and then switch to the Kemper, and then we're gonna already make some first assessment on what the differences are. So, I'm not sure what exactly is happening over here, but the Kemper has some very weird, not necessarily bad, but some weird way in pushing the mids forward, shelving off a little bit of the high end, and it sounds a little bit, I would say, broken for lack of better terms, especially apparent when I'm doing the chugs on the low E string. So check this out. Again, the real amp. Not at all a bad sound, to be honest. You know, like, if you would give me that on the gig, I would be perfectly happy in playing that and would think, wow, this is an awesome tone. But it doesn't sound like exactly like the original. You know, like the original claim was that the Kemper Profiler can profile any amp out there. So that was really surprising. I did profile refinement. I want to make that clear. I know how to use this. I have done multiple captures with my buddy back then when he brought the Kemper already to us. I got to explore this. I took myself a lot of time to refine this. This is the best I could get. There were times where it turned out like complete garbage. You could not really, you know, identify anything, any similarities. This was the best one out of multiple captures which I made. And still, there's something lacking over here. Let me move over from the real amp to neural amp modeler to show you how that still retains most of the characteristics of the original amp. So, original amp and then neural amp modeler. To be fair, there's like a slight difference in the high end going on, I think. So it's not 100% there, but it's by far superior to the Kemper, and it is super close. You know, like, this is just a matter of how hard I am picking. You know, slightest adjustment of the treble or the mids might do already the trick. The gain sounds quite right, and the feel is very good with the neural amp modeler. Of course, the feel is something which is subjective, which you cannot hear, but I hope it kind of translates well through the speakers which you are using. So, in that case, it's strange how the Kemper just lacks in that department. Okay, moving on, I'm gonna compare again the real amp against the ToneX. For me, it becomes immediately apparent what the differences are. Just listen to how the gain is kind of being pulled out. It's kind of like the soul and the liveliness is a little bit sucked out. There's a little bit shaving off the high end, and There's, undergained. There's a weird boost of the low end, which kind of makes it sound a little bit hollow. I'm going to now, again, play the ToneX first and then move to the real amp. I mean, to me personally, it's clear like day and night what the differences are. I mean, one thing, credit where credit is due, the ToneX still retains the characteristics of the original amp sound. It does not change so much like the Kemper does change. So if I would go ahead and just push the gain and the treble a little bit, we're going to do that later on, then I could get way closer to the amplifier than we are right now. Now, okay, let's move to the original again and then to the STL Tones tone-up tracer. Now again, it's a little bit undergained. It does not shelve that much off of the high end like the ToneX does. Maybe a little bit, but there's a little bit more of a fullness which comes to the real amp. But the real amp in general, across all of the capturing technologies, has a little bit of an advantage in that regard. So got to take that for what it's worth. Now let's go ahead and try to make ToneX and STL Tones Tone-Up Tracer a little bit closer to the original, because I personally think that with NAM we already are there basically. We don't have to do that much of an adjustment. Okay, for that I'm gonna pull the gain a little bit up, bass a little bit down, treble up the tiniest bit, so there we go, and presence as well up. That should do the trick already. I'm gonna already go also into the STL Tones Tone-Up Tracer, and I'm just gonna bump the gain by round about 3 dB in order to get more of that fullness. Okay, let's try again ToneX versus the real deal, starting with the real deal. All right, we're already getting way closer to the original. We could go ahead and bump the gain a little bit more even, so that we get a little bit more of that fullness. Now we are very close to the real original source. However, when you're playing, there's still some sort of feel thing, it's hard to describe, which kind of detaches the ToneX a little bit compared to the original. But we're talking about nuances, really. We're talking about nuances. Let's move over between the real deal and STL Tones Tone-Up. Still, there's something going on with the fullness of the real capture. I'm gonna bump the gain a little bit higher so that we're getting a little bit more gain out of the STL Tones Tone-Up Tracer. Now we're kind of getting very close to the original source, in my personal opinion. Gonna try again now the real deal against NAM. Man, I do hear that there are slight differences. Yes, I do hear that, but the feel of Neural Amp Modeler it's weird to describe. It's just better than the other things. I don't know if that has to do something with that the machine learning overall is a little bit better, and that kind of brings that immediacy to it when you play. It's super weird to explain. You gotta explore that for yourself. Speaking of exploring that for yourself, I'm gonna try my best to put that out on all of my different platforms before I release the video. If it's not online yet after I release the video, bear with me, wait a few days and then come back to the video. In the link description below, I'm gonna try to upload this to, the ToneX, to Tone Hunt, and also to the Tracer thingy where you got the Tracer Exchange, that's the name. And I also want to find out if I can upload my capture under the Kemper Rig Exchange. I don't know what you call that. However, it's going to be somewhere down below. Just bear with me a few days. Yeah, I think for the casual playthrough segment we already are through. I'm going to leave my thoughts and opinions for the conclusion part of this video. We're going to move on to the next segment of this video. Alright, I got everything prepared for the next segment over here. I got a riff which I'm looping through from one of my band's Tempest songs, Scorching Death. Just played that in, and I'm just going to cycle it through and going to switch always here via the soloing function between the real amp, Kemper, NAM, ToneX, and Tracer. So whatever is going to be soloed, you can see that by this highlighted yellow S over here, that's going to be the track which is currently active. So we're going to start with the real amp, just cycle through them, and then we're going to pinpoint at one specific point in the riff some differences, which I just explained with the casual playthrough before, but making my point even more clear. Let's go! All right, so now we cycled through all of them through. Eventually, you already catch some of the differences. I want to make it clearer what I'm actually hearing while explaining. And for that, I'm going to take this mind-boggling numb e-chugs over here. Because there you can really hear the differences. It's going to be boring from a listening perspective, but hopefully you're going to come to the same conclusions which I have and going to be a little bit smarter therefore after. So when I compare the real amp versus Kemper, there is definitely an effect. Let's listen. So whenever I switch to Kemper, the fidelity kind of gets lost. For lack of a better term, the resolution is kind of, not there anymore. It kind of crumbles and falls apart in the chugs. That's something which is my general remark about the Kemper in general, how it sounds a little bit stiff, a little bit harsh, a little bit gritty. So if I move in between to the Neural Amp Modeler sometimes in between, you're going to recognize that against the Kemper, I don't have that effect on Neural Amp Modeler. So whenever I'm switching to the Kemper, there's a clear difference, clear as day and night. For me personally, I could make this out definitely in a blind test and say that the Kemper is sounding worse. Maybe I could not say which one is which, but I could definitely hear that one of them is sounding a little bit off, and I would then guess that would be the Kemper based on the experience I had so far with that. Hope you agree. Hope you can hear also what I'm hearing there. Moving onward against real amp versus ToneX. Remember that I said that the ToneX is somewhat undergained, has a little bit of a high-end roll-off and a little bit of a boost, which makes it sound hollow. Exactly that thing becomes apparent to me also when listening and comparing these against each other. Yeah, the ToneX is definitely lacking gain. Let's again move to between real amp, ToneX, and then sometimes in between to neural amp modeler. So again, I can clearly hear ToneX really falls off when it comes to the gain thing. As we have discovered before, you can compensate a little bit by turning up the gain, turning up the treble a little bit. You can get very far with that, but as it is straight out of the box, the capturing technology in itself has these inherent flaws. Now off to real amp versus tracer. Again, what I said in the casual video again is here true. The tracer is a little bit more undergained, but retains the high-end frequency response, basically very much like the real deal. So just bumping up the gain a little bit can get you very far in getting the actual real amp experience in that sense. Again, I'm gonna compare real amp versus tracer, and then back into NAM. So, tracer is remarkably close to NAM. It sounds a little bit less gainier than the real deal, but it retains the same qualities like NAM does. So I'm genuinely impressed by tracer. These are not coming as a surprise, these results, because I already had these same findings when I did the dedicated video for the STL Tones Tone Up Tracer, where I compared it against Neural Amp Modeler and ToneX. But it's nice to see that, my assessments remain true, at least for my personal, taste, opinion, whatever you want to call it. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into the conclusion. So, my verdict on the Kemper Profiler is pretty mixed, to be honest. I have to say that there's no talking around that. The Kemper Profiler does lack fidelity when it comes to the capturing technology. You have heard it for yourself. This capture, which you're hearing, is actually the best out of 10 different captures which I made. Sometimes it was a complete crap shot. It did not work at all. It sounded super gritty. Sometimes it was better than that super grittiness, but it wasn't as good as it is now. So this is now the best capture out of 10 different captures which I made, just to kind of, increase the sample size in that regard. And with having so many crap shots in between, the verdict has to be mixed, because whenever I took that same file and I did NAM, it worked straight the first time, worked straight the second, straight the third time. So I did a few captures just to make sure, is there at one point, a crap shot? And there never was. With the Kemper Profiler, that looks different. So, gotta deduct some points for that. And overall, I have to say, Wow. It shows its age in a lot of different aspects. You know, like when you are creating your rigs, it's very tedious. Yeah, I have to say, I'm a little bit disappointed because I loved the idea of having a Kemper for so long, and now that I finally have one in my hands to test around, I'm not gelling with it that much. So, my verdict, unfortunately, has to be, is the Kemper Profiler worth its money in 2024? For me, personally, it's not. However, I do have to bring in some arguments which speak for the Kemper Profiler in that regard to make a fair assessment. What would speak for the Kemper Profiler in this day and age is, first off, if you buy the power amp if you buy the power head, you're going to have a power amplifier within that. So you're going to have a full contained unit which you can just take to your gig and then you put it in, you're done. You have nothing to do with floorboards and that stuff. You have nothing to do with small little units which then could, you know, fail and then, oh my god, what's with this cable, what's with this patch cable, turn this knob and, you know, go to the next device, turn that knob, and so on and so forth. This is a self-contained unit, kind of. It works or it doesn't work because it's broken. You know, the effects on the Kemper Profiler are, of course, of superior quality. There's no doubt about that. It's super flexible. It is more of a complete rig by now and not anymore a sheer, you know, like an lonely profiler, like rather the ToneX is, even though it has a reverb and all of that stuff. And, you know, the dime head, as much as I love this, so this is, you know, the best thing which I basically ever bought, kind of, but of course it's still limited in its capabilities, you know, like you have a reverb, you have a delay, you can make the delay to a chorus. That's kind of about it already with the tremolo, you know, like it's supposed to be a self-contained thing which replaces your amp, you know, with some extra goodies. This over here is more of a full rig behemoth. Yeah, what else speaks for the Kemper? I think which speaks the most for the Kemper, and this is something which you cannot push away and take away from it, this is an industry standard. There are thousands of content creators, tens of thousands of profiles which people have made of professional quality. We're not talking about, you know, the sifting through the crap profiles which you have on other platforms. You know, it is what it is. The more inexperienced the user base is, the lesser good profiles you're going to have within that field. And with the Kemper, because it is so super nerdy and like a spaceship, people have really dialed it in and have commercially very good available captures out there. Also, this is an industry standard on stages all over the world. People know how to use this, what to set the levels to, can eventually help you out to get the most out of it for you and your crowd and your audience. And I think that is something which is really valuable in regard of the Kemper. However, I think it's time for an update. I think there should be a V2 at some point in time. There's no talking around this. I think they now have kind of pushed the boundaries to what you can get out of the Kemper version 1. They should upgrade the algorithm and just release a new unit with more processing power, with better, you know, ins and outs, even with maybe more sophisticated settings in regards of, you know, how to plug in your PC or how to, you know, navigate the panel, because this everything shows a little bit its age and it's just going to get worse from here onward. That's my honest verdict. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something out of it. Maybe was able to make an informed decision on what modeler you want to purchase over here. If you do enjoy what you like, then I would highly appreciate if you could click on the subscribe button. Let me know down below in the comments, what did you thought about my assessments? Do you think that I made a fair comparison between the devices? Do you think that I missed something out? Is something wrong? Do you agree to my points eventually? So let me know down below in the comments and let's have a little bit of a chat. To all of you watching, subscribing to the channel, thank you so much. I recently breached 1,400 subscribers. I'm super grateful for everybody joining this journey. It's been hugely fun, and I hope for a lot more videos and a lot more talks with you wonderful people out there. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day, and until then, keep it metal.